Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and part 2 of the July Kimberbell Mini Quilt. So we're going to do a couple more blocks. This is the last 2 blocks in this little mini quilt. This one only had 4, so that it was very quick and fun, easy blocks. And so we're going to start with the heart block. So let me turn this book so you can see it a little bit better. We're going to start with the heart block, and for the USA version, it's going to be like the little red, white, and blue striped heart with the stars and the stripes on it. And then if you're from Canada, they have a Canadian heart that has the little maple leaf on it. So I think that's so cool that they did that for everybody, so that you can choose the one that is where you live. So that's cool. So we're going to do the USA version. And I'm going to start with my background fabric is going to be my kind of a peachy pinky color. And then we're going to need a piece of white for one side of the heart, the light blue for the other side of the heart. And then, we're going to use red embroidery leather out of the little embellishment kit for the stripes on the heart. So on the one side of the heart. And then we're going to quilt this with, and then all of the pieces except for the embroidery leather have shape flex on the back. So I've got the shape flex on the back here. Here's my background piece and then my 2 pieces of applique. So they had you put it on all of the pieces. Let's see here. And then we need, what else do we need? We just need our quilting design. So we're going to do our quilting, and I didn't have the food 6 because that's a new one and I didn't buy them, so I used one. I found another one that had like summery food, and it had a popsicle and an ice cream cone. So mine has popsicles and ice cream cones on it, so I thought that would be appropriate for this one. All right, so let's go over here. And I'm going to go get my quilting file first, and I'm going to be using, they suggested food 6, and that's one of the newer ones, and I don't happen to have it. But I'm going to use food 1, which is the other one that has the popsicles. So I'm going to do food 1. And one thing that's different about this folder over the last one, the wavy designs only have block by block designs. So the wavy designs are not available in both the block by block and the clear blue tiles. So you'll notice that this one has 2 different folders. So we're doing block by block. So we're going to choose block by block on this one. So I'm going to choose block by block, PES, because the other one was just block by block. It didn't have the edge to edge or the clear blue tile files in it. And then this one, we're going to choose the same size. So it's going to be the 6x6 design. So I have to go down a little ways here. There it is, 6x6 food 1. And it has ice cream cones and popsicles on it. And then this one is going to also be centered. So we'll just go ahead and set this one. And then we're going to go get our Heart USA. And there are separate files for the Heart USA and the Heart Canadian. So there's 2 different files. So we're going to hit add down here. Go back to my stick. And here it is, mini quilts. And July. Okay, so here's the Canadian one and here's the USA. So those were the only blocks that were had a separate file. So we're going to pick the USA one with the little stars and stripes, and it says centered, so we'll just leave it centered. Click set and click embroidery. So we're ready to embroider. So we're going to start with the quilting, and I am going to be quilting mine with that kind of peachy pinky color that matches my background. So I've got that in my needle, and oops, let's get some of these out of our way here. And then we're going to start with the same order. Of course, with the quilting is going to be the first step is going to be the placement line for the batting. And I think I forgot to mention the batting in the first video. I usually use scraps that I have because I long arm, and I always have long arm scraps around. I like Hobbs 80/20 the best because it's still very lightweight and soft, but it has just a little bit of polyester in it, so it's a little bit more lofty. And I think that's why I just really like the loft that I get on my quilting. And so some of the flatter battings are not going to give you that little bit of a, get more loft in that quilting. So I'm using Hobbs 80/20. All right, so we're going to put this down. I've just got my chunk of batting as usual. This over the placement line here. It's kind of light, you can hardly see it. All right, and then the step number 2 is always going to be the tack down line for our batting. So we're going to get this stitched out, and then I think it goes around it twice, and then we'll go ahead and trim our batting. I think you can see very well. Sorry, my camera's a little, I'm having a little trouble adjusting it because there's something slightly off. I think one of the little, the base of my camera is just, or my camera arm, I should say, is just a little bit loose, and it wants to turn every now and then. All right. I finally moved the cutting stuff off of the little gray mat next to me so that the cat can sit down. I made part 1 of this video just a few minutes ago, and she's been out here trying to sit on her mat. So part 2 of the mini quilt is being made a few minutes later, and she's much happier now because I have made space for her. All right. I think we all have our sewing buddies in our sewing room, don't we? Most of the time mine has 4 legs and a tail, so. All right, so we're going to trim around this. So all of these squares in this little mini quilt are going to be 6.5 inches. Are going to finish 6, but they're going to be cut at 6.5. Okay, so then step number 3, as usual, is going to be the placement line for the fabric. So let me get that. My background fabric here, I pressed it. It was kind of wrinkly. Get some of the threads off of there. I'm still in my 8x8 hoop with my no-show mesh in the back in the hoop. No-show mesh stabilizer. I use that for, we'll be using that for all of these. Okay, so then I'm going to put this in. I think most of you are getting along really well with these little projects, so you're probably really getting the hang of them. All right, then we're going to do step number 4, and that will tack down our fabric. Again, this is the 2 steps. Step 3 and 4 would be the ones you could remove if you have a 6x10 hoop in order to do this design, because it would still work just fine in there, but if you take out these 2 steps, because this is the steps that make it 6.5 by 6.5. All right, and then step number 5 is going to be my quilting. And it's going to be my little pattern that has ice cream cones and popsicles. And then I'll be back in a moment and we'll start working on our heart. All right, so we're all quilted. Isn't that cute? I really like, here's the popsicles here, and then there's a little ice cream cone on mine. So I think that looks really nice. All right, so the next step, we're going to go right into the actual design now. And it's going to be the left side of the heart. So the left side of the heart is going to be this light blue. So I am going to put in my light blue thread, and the first step of the actual design, and this is on page 12 of the instructions, is going to be the placement line for our light blue fabric. Looks like the heart's pretty good size, so we're going to do the placement line, and then we're going to lay down our fabric. On the other side's the white. Okay. All right, we'll get this in here. Cover up, make sure you get everything covered. I didn't do very well cutting up here, did I? All right, so get that. And then there is shaped flex on the back of both of these fabrics, both the white and the blue. So now we're going to tack it down. and then we'll trim. I think it goes around it twice. Yep. All right. Looks nice. And then we're going to trim this close to the stitches. And then I think we're going to switch to the white because we're going to be doing the other side of the heart. So we're going to do the appliques first here. So we'll trim this. My piece of thread out of the way here. Get this one all trimmed. I may have to take it out. Can't get around the corner here. Okay. And then down this side. All right. And then we're going to switch over to white thread to do the white fabric. That's on the other side. Just a second here. It's my white. Looks like my red thread just went flying across the room here. Okay. Looks like it's some lint on there. Okay, so then we're going to do the placement line for the other side of the heart. Get my other piece out here. My book is pretty fat now because I put everything, the rest of the pages for the rest of the year in the same book, and it's really fat and heavy. Okay, and then we're going to lay this one down and tack this one down. Now this one is a little bit directional for me, so I want to make sure that it looks pretty straight. I'll use the edge to help me. There we go. And then we're going to tack that one down. And then we're going to trim that. And then we're going to do the stripes for the heart in the red embroidery leather. All right, so then we're going to trim this. Oh, I've got one very, very tight hoop again. I need to clean. If you clean your hoops off a little bit, mine are just getting dirty on the top. I think that's why they're so tight. So I cleaned one of mine the other day and with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, like 70% rubbing alcohol, and just cleaned it off, and it really helped a lot because I think it's just they just get dirty. And then they don't slip in and out as easily. All right, so there's that side of the heart. Okay, so the next step is going to be the placement lines for the red embroidery leather. Yeah, so so I'm going to go ahead and put my red in. Of course, that's the one that went flying across the floor, so I'll have to go retrieve it. It's about halfway back to my cutting table here. All right, I'm going to put this one on to do the placement lines. This thread is almost empty. All right, so then let's do the placement lines. This one. And then it says to place the stripes leather right side up, and then we're going to stitch the tack down lines. So we're going to do the placement lines first, and then the tack down lines. I decided I better do them in red just in case they might show a little bit. And this embroidery leather, as you can see, is white on the back, so we're going to have to be a little careful when we trim it, that we keep the scissors turned so that we don't have like the white showing. Some of their embroidery leathers are darker colors like this is, and then it's white on the back, so I have to be a little careful when I trim. Okay, so we got all of our placement lines done, and now we're going to lay the embroidery leather, can't say it, embroidery leather down on the the side. So I'm going to try to conserve it a little bit, and I think this will be okay. We got plenty to cover everything here. All right, and then the next step is going to be stitching it down. So I'm going to use that same red thread. It's going to stitch it down, and then, whoops, and this is on the bottom of page 12, and I'm going to turn my book over here, and it says, then trim the leather close to the outer stitch line shown in white. So we're just going to be trimming, we're going to trim in between them too, because we want the white fabric to show in between. Trim the leather as desired along the top and bottom of the stripes shown in white. These edges will be raw edge applique and will not have additional cover stitches. So the cover stitches are just going to be around the outside edge and then up the middle. So the embroidery leather will not have, these stripes will not have stitches on them. It'll just be around the outside edge. Okay, so we've got the tack down stitches done, and they were kind of triple stitches. So now we're going to do the trimming. So this is a little bit tricky with this leather because it is white on the back, and I don't want the white to show. Now I'm not as worried about this side right here because it's going to be covered up with satin stitches. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to trim up along the edge, and can you see that I'm tipping my scissors upright? I'm trying to get it from getting a bevel that's going to show that white on the back. So if you keep your scissors more upright, it's easier to keep that white from showing. But there is going to be a satin stitch here. All right, so there's going to be one here yet. All right, so I'm going to go like that. So I've got the inside, and then let's do the outside also. So I'm going to turn this around, and this is also going to be covered up with satin stitches. So we should be okay there, and then I'll show you about the other ones. So I'm just going to kind of go along the outside edge. I'm still tipping my scissors up to try to keep that, to practice that so I don't have white edges showing in the middle. We'll see how we do here. See, this is what I get. Can you see this little white edge right here? I struggle with cutting some of the leathers because they are not as easy. Okay, so then we're going to get this one. Okay, so now we're down to here where the little heart, or where the little stripes are. So we want to try to keep those red looking. So I'm going to try my other pair of scissors. Let me try, these are my little Ginger scissors that are really pointy in the end. Let me see if these work better because they are straighter. And I'm going to see if I can get up in here. And you need to leave just a little bit along the edge. So maybe about 1/8 of an inch or so along the edge. And that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to set this aside. And let's see if we can get this one. So the trick with the red is to try to keep all that white from showing underneath. So maybe the straight scissors might be working a little better. I usually use my curved ones, but I do really struggle with, I think there's 2 or 3 that are white in the back. I think maybe the blue, they have like a robin egg blue, and I think it's white on the back too. And this, I knew the red was. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing along these. We want to go in between here so that we can have white showing as well. So I'm going to try to be very careful and keep my scissors very upright so I don't have a white edge showing. So I'm just going to be very careful to go through there. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch. And this is a little hard because you're going in between those 2 stripes. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And let's see if I can get this one. And I keep turning it around. I don't know the best way to do this side. I think it'd be better to go this way. So again, I'm going to try to keep my scissors as straight as possible so that I don't get that white edge showing. So yeah, I think the straight scissors for this particular purpose are working better. I usually use my Ginger double curved, but this is working a little better because then I have straight pieces on them. So it looks pretty good. I'm just a little bit rough on that one. That one was a little hard to get into. So let's try this one. So I do better on the right hand side one than I do on the left hand side one. So it's working in there okay. I figured you might want to watch this one because this is the hardest thing about the trimming, I think, on the leathers, is trying to keep that white from showing. Okay, I'm going to hold this up just a little bit. That might help me. Looks pretty good. So just, I think my little Ginger straight scissors are working a little bit better for this. Although they are a little harder to get into that little small area. There. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So there's a couple of the stripes. What do you think? I'm going to hold them up a little closer so you can see. So what do you think? Did I do okay? They look pretty good. They're a little bit rough on that one edge. I'm having a little time going on this one edge here, so we'll see if I can clean it up a little bit. So I'll go ahead and turn the camera off, and I'm just going to continue doing these other stripes. So there's going to be one here, and one here. So you're cutting in between the little stripes that are all the way around, and then you're leaving these raw edge. So I'll be back in a minute when I get this all done, and then we'll be going on to, I think we're going to go on to the satin stitching maybe. Yes, the satin stitching. Okay, so I got my little stripes all trimmed. They look pretty good. I have to say I did struggle a little bit. So I used the combination of both my scissors. I like these Gingers, but they do have that curved blade. But if you tip them up like this, and you can get a little bit closer, and I ended up getting a little bit closer to the stitches, and I got some of the trimming done, the main trimming done with my little Ginger straight embroidery scissors. So whatever works best for you, just try a variety and just take your time, because I just took my time trimming, so then I don't really see any white spots on my stripes. So that looks pretty good. So the next step then is going to be the satin stitches around the stars and stripes, you know, or the stripes part of the heart, and it's going to be red all the way around the middle and then up the right hand side. So I'll be back in a minute when we're ready to do the next step. All right, so we got the pretty red satin stitching over here, and that goes over it a couple of times. It's kind of neat because it has more texture that way. And then the next step is going to be the left hand side, which is going to be my light blue. I think it is, yeah, light blue 017, and it's going to go over the left hand. And then I think the last step is going to be the stars on the left side of our heart. All right, so I've got my satin stitches around here, and I'm ready for the stars. So the stars are going to be the last step in this design, and it's number 9 on the top of page 13. So I'm going to do my stars, and I'll be right back to take it out of the hoop. Okay, so I've got the block all done, and my stripes look pretty straight. They're still a little bit, I've got a little bit of curviness on them, but they're not too bad. This is, just take your time doing that embroidery leather, because it's a little harder to trim and keep it looking straight, and then also keep it from that white part from showing. So anyway, I thought that turned out really good. It's really pretty. I like the background and the little ice cream cones and the little popsicles on there. So all right, so this is our block, our heart block. So I'm going to reset here and get ready to do the last block, which is going to be what is the last one? Oh, the popsicles. The popsicles. So I'll get ready to do the popsicles, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're ready to do the popsicle block, and there are 2 versions, one for the Canadians and one for the USA. The USA's are red, white, and blue, and the Canadian one is red and white. So so anyway, you need to have the background with a piece of shaped flex on the back. And then there's 4 little pieces of fabric to go in that. This one, so we're going to have our blue on the bottom, the white in the middle, and the red on the top. And then the little tan color is the popsicle stick. So I have my tan. I think it's going to start with the popsicle sticks. No, we're going to start with the quilting. So I'm going to put my kind of peachy color pink in again. Now I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous about this confetti because we have to put confetti on top and then you put the vinyl in. And the way they have you do it is they leave interesting. They have you leave the top of the vinyl open right here, and then you put it says to put the confetti in. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to get the confetti in there yet because I got a spoon thinking maybe that would work, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. This stuff has a lot of static to it. So we're gonna see what happens as we get along here. Remember, I'm doing these with you, so we're sewing along together here. So, because normally when I've done stuff like this with vinyl, I put this on inside before I put the vinyl down on top. That's normally the way I've done these because I know I've done several of these with the confetti. For the little Kimberbell, it was a Kimberbell one. It was a Christmas one, and it was like a snow globe. So I know that's the way we did it, and we didn't stick it in the top. So I'm going to see what I think about this. I'm not sure. I may end up doing it that way and putting little lines like down the popsicles and then laying this down really, and if you lay it down real quick, then it doesn't have time to static to it. So we'll see how we do when we get to the end here. This will be our experiment block. Okay, so the first step then is going to be getting ready. We got our no-show mesh in the hoop, and it's still my 8x8 hoop. I'm going to put my pink thread in. It's flush pink, and that's what we're going to do the quilting in. Get that in the machine. Let's get rid of this offending confetti for a moment and see. we'll do the easy part first. How about that? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and thread the machine, and I've got shape flex on the back of all 4 of these pieces too, the little ones too, for the appliques. Okay, I'm going to set these over here, and then we're going to get ready to do our quilting. So I already have the folder come up. I'm going to use that same one. They recommend food 6, and I didn't have that, so I'm using food 1. And I'm going to use the block by block. And I'm going to go in and get that same 6x6 design that we'd used on the last block. Right here, 6x6. And then it's got the popsicles and the ice cream cones. And then we're going to add, and we're going to go back in and get our popsicles. So go get the popsicles here. July, getting closer. Here it is, popsicles. All right, and everything is supposed to be centered, so it comes in center. We should be good there. And then hit embroidery. All right, so let's start out with the quilting. We know that's going to work out just fine. So we'll see how we do when we get to the confetti. I'm a little, like I said, I'm a little worried about that. Okay, so the first step in the quilting is always the placement line for the batting. Let me get my batting chunk up here. So you always have to have one block in all of these. I think that has to be an adventure. So this is our adventure block tonight. We'll see how this goes. All right, I think I got all the strings off of it. So we'll lay this up, and then we're going to tack this down. All right, let's get this tacked down. Okay. Hold my chunk up a little bit. It's kind of dragging on me. There we go. So it won't. And then we'll trim this. I gotta find my scissors again. I think everyone has something they look for, and me, it's the scissors. I did find them, and they weren't on the floor, which is unusual. All right, so it's going to go around this twice. All the blocks have been fairly straightforward, but when I saw this one had the little confetti stuff in there, I'm like, oh. So we'll see how it goes. We may try the way I've done it before, or we may try it the way they do it. I haven't figured out how I can get the confetti in there. If there's just a little hole at the top, how are you going to get it in there? I'll think about it as we're going here. All right, so then I'm going to trim my batting. Whoops, here. There we go. Trim my batting close to the stitches. Whoops, there we go. All right, all the way around. And then we're going to do step 3, which is the placement line for our backing material. Oh my goodness, I keep knocking my camera. Got too many things laying out on my table. All right, so we'll lay this down, and then we're going to do the tack down for the fabric. That's step number 4 of the quilting. Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll do the quilting. So I just wanted to show you in these that's why I didn't buy the designs, but you don't have to buy the quilting designs. If you have quilting designs, which I do have a lot of their quilting designs, you most likely will find something that's very appropriate. I mean, I have a lot of quilting designs. So, all right, so then here's the quilting part. This is the ice cream cones and the little popsicles, so we'll go ahead and do these. And I will be back in a minute to go to the next step. I think the next step will be the popsicle stick, the sticks on the bottom. Okay, so here's our quilting. It's all done. It looks so cute with the little ice cream cones and stuff on it. And then the next step is going to be the placement lines for the little sticks. So I've got my kind of, I think it's called warm gray, but it's kind of a tan color thread in that is going to do those placement lines, and then it'll be the tack down lines. And then we'll move on to like the bottoms of the popsicles, and they're going to be blue. All right, so here's our second one. Keep trying to keep all my pieces together here. Okay. And we're going to lay this down over the placement lines, and then it's going to tack these down. Like I got this one covered over here. Yep. And there is shape flex on the back of all of these pieces. The background was just a little stronger, so some of these were kind of light colored, so they had to put it on the back of all of them. So I think we're going to be doing all of the applique first, it looks like. Do that. Oops. I'll find the right scissors again. Get ready to trim this when it's out. This one was really cute. I like popsicles anyway, and I like those rocket popsicles, you know, the red, white, and blue ones. Except you always get blue lips from the blue ones, you know. But I still like them. You never outgrow stuff like that, I don't think. All right. So we're going to trim these close to the stitches. Around these. Oops. Turn it this way. Right. This one more. I turn the hoops around a lot. I try to trim in the camera so you can see me trimming, but sometimes it's hard when the hoops are bigger. I like it when the hoops are square or smaller like this one. All right, so there's that, and then we're going to switch colors, and let's see, my next one is going to be the blue, so we're going to go to the gem blue to do the blue layer here. We'll do those. Get my machine threaded. There we go. So let's get some placement lines here. Find my blue. I think my blue has a little bit of a print, so I'll have to be careful it's straight because it's kind of a little check. So I don't want it to look crooked on there. These are going to be cute. I thought this was a fun one. I haven't looked at the next one for August. I haven't noticed what I think they did more sort of a beach theme, as I remember, but the August ones were. And then September seems like it was a little bit more fallish, like school or fall. All right, so then we're going to get this one. This one's got the shake box on the back too. Okay, I'm going to try to get this one pretty straight because it is a little bit directional. I don't want it to look crooked. There we go. All right, so then we're going to do our placement lines, or our tack down lines, sorry. I think the next one's going to be white. Next layer. I think those look pretty straight. Popsicles are turning out really cute. All right, so we got these all tacked down for the bottom of the popsicles, and we'll get these trimmed here. Let's see how I can, oop, I had a big string. Get these trimmed. Kimberbell always has nice satin stitches, so if you're not super duper close, you're usually fine. Because they have usually nice wide satin stitches that cover everything nicely. I found that on some of my pillows as I've been working with them, I can't actually trim as close as I sometimes do because I use pretty wide satin stitches, and sometimes the satin stitches, I just try not to trim I don't have to trim as close because of the way the applique tack down is inset a little bit more on my software evidently, and so I don't have to trim as close because it's plenty, you know, you don't have to trim as close or be as careful with my designs. But some of the designs now, like I said, Kimberbell, I don't have to trim as close either because they have good satin stitches. So. All right, so there's our blue. So then the next one is going to be the white in the center. So let me grab my white thread here. We'll get the placement lines on those. Oops. Threaded. Up. All right, we'll get our placement lines down, and then we'll be ready for our white fabric. Okay, so we got our placement lines. Here's my fabric for the middle. And again, this is a little directional, so I want to make sure I keep it pretty straight because there's kind of lines on it. So keep it pretty straight, and then we're going to do the placement line and do the trimming on these. Okay, so I tacked down and trimmed my white center pieces of my popsicles, and that was the last two steps on the bottom of page 16. So that was steps 5 and 6. So I'm getting ready to turn to page 6 or 17 in the instructions, and now we're going to do the red top. So I'm going to do my placement lines, and then we're going to use the red fabric that also has the shape flex on the back, and we're going to do the applique for the tops. Okay, so we got our placement lines, and here's our red fabric with shape flex. Going to put that over those. And now we're going to tack those down, and then I'm going to trim those close to the stitches, and then I think we're going to start doing the satin stitches on all of our popsicle parts. Okay, so everything's on, all the fabrics are on, and now we're going to start the next steps, and I'm going to do all 4 of these steps before I come back on. Number 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to be the popsicle stick satin stitches, and then the stitch the popsicle top satin stitches, and then it's going to be the middle ones, and then it's going to be the bottom ones. So I'm going to use my tan thread, my blue, white, and red threads to do that. And so that'll be steps 9, 10, 11, and 12 on page 17. So I'll be back when I get those. I've got my tan thread in, and I'm ready to do the popsicle sticks. And then I'll just go ahead and follow along and do the colors. And I will be back in a few minutes when I get all of these done. Okay, so all the satin stitches are on, and I'm going to lint roll my, wherever it went, oh, here it is. I'm going to lint roll on top of this to make sure there's nothing in here because you don't want your any lint inside your little vinyl area. Okay, so I'm kind of nervous about this, so I'm going to do this the way I've always done this, and this is the way I've always done confetti, because I've done other things that have had stuff like this in it. So what I did is I took my vinyl piece and I used a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a paper towel, and I went over both sides of it because it kind of cuts down on the static then. And I also did that to this little spoon here. And I'm going to dip my spoon in the confetti, and I've turned all the fans off, and I'm just going to put some confetti in the center of these. Try to stay away from the edges. You don't need very much. And I'm just going to keep it down the center here, and I may take a little bit of it off. It does help a little bit with the static with the alcohol. I learned that from a card maker. All right, so we're gonna check to make sure that the confetti is away from the edges so it doesn't get caught in the stitching. Okay, so we're gonna do, this is the, like I said, this is the way I've always done it, and I couldn't figure out how I was going to get this confetti in that little hole at the top, because it's like, how are you going to get it in there? So we're going to do it this way. So I'm just going to move these around and make sure that everything is away from the edges. Okay. So you just kind of pile it up in the middle like that. So I think I've got enough in there. You don't really need a whole lot. This stuff goes a long ways. All right. And then I'm going to take my piece of vinyl, and this is the trick. Lay it down quick. I kind of bend it in the middle, and I'm just going to lay it down real quick and try not to move it afterwards. Okay, so get it down roughly in the center and lay it down, because otherwise the confetti will go everywhere. And now we're going to tape it because we got it on there. Just going to put my fingers down here, but the alcohol, rubbing it, just do a gentle, or like those little alcohol swab things. I'm just holding it with my hand. Sorry, you can't see them right now. Those little alcohol swabs, you know, just go over your vinyl with that, because it does cut down the static. Because that's the part that's hard, is there's static with these. All right, so we're going to tape those down. All right. And then I'm going to hold this in the middle, like here, so to keep the confetti from jumping around. All right. So give me a second here, and I'm going to, let's see, oh, it uses white. So I'm going to switch over to my white. But when I did my little snow globes, this is how I did it, and I just, it worked, and so I thought, well, it's got to work for this too. But I am going to have to hold down and kind of in the middle here to keep the confetti from jumping around, because it's they're kind of small, you know. And you're doing 3 at the same time instead of only 1. All right. So let's see what happens here. We're gonna give her a go. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this down here while this stitches. So it's gonna stitch this one first. I'm just gonna put my fingers in between the 2 of them here to keep the confetti from kind of bouncing around. Just watch your fingers. And if the confetti gets stuck in the stitching, it really doesn't matter. This one will probably a little bit, because it bounced a little bit. But I was so worried I wasn't going to be able to get it in there. Because it's so tight at the top, and I thought, well, how am I ever going to get this stuff in there? All right, I think we're going to be okay, though. Okay, it's bounced a little bit over here, but I think it'll be all right. And then we can actually do the next step. And then trim, because you trim. There we go. I think it's okay. There's a little bit that bounced out up here, but I think we're okay. All right. And then it says, at this point, they were telling you to put the confetti in by pulling this up. And it's like, how am I going to get it in there without it popping out of the hoop or something? So we already got it in there. Okay, so then the last step says to stitch the tack down lines up here. Okay, so just a second, let me get, there's a little bit of the confetti that's kind of on here, so I'm just going to wipe that off. Just that's some that's just a little bit in the way, so we'll just do that. Okay, because I just didn't know how I was going to get it poked in there. So, all right, so then we're going to do the last step of the confetti. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch those. And I think it's going to look just fine. But that's the way I've always done it, and use a little bit of alcohol. The other thing that some people will use is like soap and water and like wash the vinyl to keep it from being quite so staticky. So that's another option. I don't know what, but I've just always just used a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it. And then I use some on my spoon too to help the static with the plastic spoon. But this stuff is staticky, and that's what causes the problems. So, okay, so there's the second one. I think it's going to look good. And then once we trim, because then it says to trim the vinyl, it's going to be raw edge applique also. Whoops, I might have a broken thread here in a second. Looks like I got a broken thread. That vinyl sometimes likes to shred your thread, so just to warn you. I'm going to go back, just make sure I catch that spot. Just going to back up a little bit. Rethread my machine. There we go. Oops. Okay, so we'll rethread. So I'm a little less nervous now. because it worked out okay. Because I was like, every design has to have at least one block that you're nervous about, doesn't it? One of the last ones was one of the, like, some of the, oops, it still didn't catch. Just a second. I may have to re-thread my bobbin too. See, it's good that you see me. It's good that you see me struggle with these, right? Because it happens sometimes. Okay, just a second. Let me get this little piece of thread off of here. And then we'll back up. I'm just going to pull my bobbin out and make sure that my bobbin is going to catch. I use pre-wound bobbins, and sometimes the bobbin case, I should say, is very tight. And so sometimes when you're doing something like this that has kind of a lot of layers to go through, it just doesn't want to catch the bobbin thread sometimes. So what I did is I took the bobbin out and I put it back in, and then I left a little tail instead of cutting it off at the end, just to leave a little bigger tail for it to catch. So let's see if we can get it now. It's just because there's a bunch of layers that's going through. There we go. All right. We've got glitter, we've got confetti in our popsicles. And then we're going to trim the vinyl. That I'm not worried about. So, okay. So let's get these over. And that was the last step too. So we're going to trim this vinyl. Get all this tape off of here. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. Like, really like these. These were fun, and they were easy. It's nice to have some fun, easy blocks, isn't it? Just to have some fun. So then we're going to trim this. And what I do with the vinyl is I kind of use the edge of my stitching to help me, help me trim evenly. So I kind of put the scissors along the edge of the stitching line and trim around. So that's all you do. You got to trim around. And then I'm going to take a little, you see there's a little bit of confetti out here. I'll just take my little tape roller and just take it off. So I'm going to trim around these, and then I'll be back in a moment, and we'll do we'll trim the blocks out, and we'll be all done with all 4 blocks. Okay, so I've got them all trimmed. I'm going to hold it up for you. And then once we release this from the hoop, we can actually jiggle this around a little bit, and it'll come up into the red a little bit more, because I just wanted to keep it away from the top. But isn't that cute with the little confetti in there? And I just used my little lint roller along the outside edge. So I think we're going to be good. And once I release this, it'll be easier to kind of move it around a little bit in the popsicles. So I'll be right back, and we will do the trimming around the edge, and we'll be done with all 4 of our blocks. Okay, so we're ready to trim these. These are also going to be trimmed with the 6.5 inch orange pop ruler, both of them. And I've got it kind of centered on my little basting line here. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of get it centered up, and then I'm going to turn it. Again, I'm going to start in from the corner a little bit, pull back into the corner, and push forward. Turn my Martelli mat. Do each side. Move just a little bit on me here. There we go. Just take your time doing this. I have to be pretty deliberate when I'm using these rulers, just still. But even though I've used them a lot, they still seem like I can easily get them off. So they do move around a little bit. All right. So I think we got that one. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. And as you play with it a little bit more, you can kind of flip it upside down. Then you can work some of your, confetti up into the red a little bit more. There we go. There's our confetti. We did it. And I don't have it all over the house, just a little bit, but not too bad. So there's the popsicle block. And then let's go ahead and get this other one done here. Get our heart. Oh my gosh, that turned out cute too. I like the colors. So let's get this one lined up in here. Turn this up this way. these lined up. Okay, I'm going to turn it towards me. And again, I am left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you're going to be turning the other direction. And I apologize, everything's backwards for some of you. I have a lot of left-handed students, though. I was surprised at how many people are left-handed in the world. My mother was good about not making me right-handed. A lot of people my age, you know, they kind of wanted them to be right-handed, but Mom, I actually use my right hand a lot because Mom taught me things right-handed because she couldn't help me if she didn't teach me right-handed. So I actually knit and crochet and everything right-handed. All right, so there's our heart block. Oh my gosh, isn't that cute? And even my stripes are even pretty straight. I did pretty well. I was a little worried about those. So, oh my gosh, those are so cute. So here's our 4 blocks. And in the next video, we're going to put these together. Aren't those beautiful? I think that'll be such a pretty, bright, like summery looking blocks. So, or mini quilts. So I'm so excited about finishing it. So thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of the July Kimberbell Mini Quilt. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I sure would appreciate it. So along with Jan. And then if you would give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate that as well. So thank you so much, and I'll meet you back here for part 3 to assemble our mini quilt. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.